Hi, I'm Matt Page, author of the British Film Institute's book 100 Bible Films. Today, David, Angel Studios' first feature length animated Bible film, is coming to UK cinemas. So last week, I got the opportunity to talk to one of the film's producers, Rita Mbanga, about how they brought this 20-year-old project to life and got it over the line. So here it is.
Well, thank you, Rita, so much for joining me today. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. I quite often get to talk to actors, but I'm also really interested in the technical side. So it's a particular treat to talk to you today about David.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, it's really awesome to meet you and to get to chat to you.
Well, thank you. You're a producer on the film. Just for the people that may be watching that aren't necessarily that familiar with that role, as opposed to executive producers and some of the other kind of co-producers and so on. Do you just want to outline a little bit of what that role is and what you've been doing on this film?
Yeah, sure. So I think it can be different from studio to studio, but with us at
Yeah.
Sunrise, a lot of us have been working together for a really long time. So Phil and Jackie Cunningham own the studio, and they are two
Mm.
of the other producers as well. Phil co-directed David as well. But and then on my team we had two other producers, Steve Pegram and Tim Keller, and all three of us have different skill sets. So
Mm.
Tim is amazing at spreadsheets, budget, keeping everybody on schedule, kind of running that side of the show, shot
Yeah.
production. And my role as a producer is voiceover, music, and then on the back end, post marketing, PR. And then, interestingly enough, with an animation, voiceovers actually happen right up front. So
Yeah.
we recorded the voices for David, years ago, actually, a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, because the animators animate to the voices. So if you know when you're watching an animated film, you'll often say, wow, and you know the actor, you'll be like, wow, the character, the mouth shape actually looked like when he was talking, he actually looked like the person. It's because the
Yeah.
animators watch the mouths of the person speaking and actually animate to that person's mouth movements. And so, yes, so all that to say, my role as a producer on David was primarily voices and then all the songs and the music, overseeing all of that, hiring the composer, the music team,
Yeah.
and then working a lot with the guys at Angel around the marketing and distribution of the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I mean, so it's a really big and kind of broad role, isn't it?
It is broad. Yeah. And then sorry that I forgot to mention the third. So Steve Pegram, who was our other producer, he's an animation industry veteran. I mean, he's worked with on all the Wallace and Gromit films and all the Aardman
Mm.
films, and a lot of other stuff as well. And he just has like a wealth of experience. So he was
Yeah.
really, this was Tim and I was our first, we've done the Jungle Beat franchise, but
Mm.
this was the biggest project we've done to date. And so Steve for us was just incredible, just like almost like a mentor or a hand holder. If I ever had moments of freaking out over agreements or contracts or whatever, I would phone
Yeah.
Steve and be like, talk me off the ledge. Like, what's happening here? How do I do this? And so it's really important to have people like that,
Yeah.
especially on a production, when it's years and years and years,
Yeah.
and so many decisions to make and so many working with so many people, to have someone whose experience has been through everything, to just
Mm.
say no, that's fine, or have you thought about this or whatever. So Steve played just such a valuable role in
Yeah.
keeping us all sane on the
Yeah,
journey.
I'm because I'm based in the UK normally. I'm very familiar with the Wallace and Gromit film, so I was,
Yes,
yeah. So it's good to have that. I'm sure it's been brilliant to have that kind of level of experience involved in the project, and I think
totally. No,
things
it
that
was it was
kind of show
huge.
through.
Definitely huge.
And I was, yeah, I guess I was just going to ask in terms of because you've been working with Phil and Jackie for is it 20 more than 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 25. It was 2002, so 24 years this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 24 years.
So that's a really,
Unbelievable.
it's a long
It's a
time,
really,
a long time on this film.
it's
And
a long
I just wonder
time.
if you could talk us through how it's kind of developed over that kind of 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So Phil and Jackie started Sunrise probably like 26 years ago,
Yeah,
27 years ago. And the first film we ever did was a stop motion animation production when we were still in Zimbabwe. And stop motion is painstaking. It's like
mm,
it was, I think the most we shot in a day was 17 seconds, and that was
yeah,
like a bumper day.
well,
But
yeah,
if and then we did one stop motion, then we were like, okay, we need to figure out another way to tell stories, like because this
Yeah.
is so long. So we decided to try a hand at CG. But ever since I met them, that all those years ago, Phil and Jackie wanted to make a story on the life of David. So Phil
Mhm.
actually wrote a book called The Eighth Son, because David was the eighth son,
Yeah.
about the life of David, and his vision was always he was like, I have built a film company. I need to tell the story of David. Like that was just the most inspiring story for him, always on
Yeah.
his heart. And then he for a long time he wanted to do a live action version of the project. So like Gladiator or 300 or Braveheart, like that kind of a David film. And then yeah, fast forward kind of 10 years into our journey in animation, Jackie, his wife, and I just kind of said to him, have you ever thought about doing David as an animation?
Mm.
It was actually my husband now who works in finance, so he's not a creative guy, but he said to me, he said, "Why are you guys trying to do this gladiator type movie?" He was like, "Why don't you do animation? You do animation." And so
Yeah.
I was like, Phil will never go for that. I was like, he's just so hard set. And then anyway, I just said, by the way, Kingdom said this, like, I know you're never going to go for it, but whatever. And he was like, yeah, no, it's definitely got to be Braveheart. And then just the niggle stayed with him. And then
Yeah.
he said to his wife, Jackie, he was like, oh, Rita said we should consider doing David animation. She was like, Phil, I've been saying this to you for years. We should absolutely do David animation. And so then he was like, okay. And then he was like walking down a beach and then a huge rainbow appeared. And like, he just really felt God, be
Yeah.
like, this is the right thing. It's the right thing to do it as an
Oh,
animation.
brilliant.
And so that same year, we just immediately, Phil spoke to Brent, who was the co-director with Phil on
Yeah.
David, and the script for the screenwriter. And he said to him, hey, how do you feel about, trying your hand at writing this animation script for the David feature film? And
Yeah.
Brent was like, absolutely. He was like, send me to Israel. And so Brent, Brent is so enthusiastic. Off he went to Israel and within, a short amount of time had this first draft of the David script. And that was 2015. So it was
Yeah.
11 years ago. We had the first draft of the script. And then we just kind of developed it and developed it and developed it. And then tried to raise the finance for the film. And, that comes with all kinds of challenges and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, eventually we started working with Angel and we did the crowdfunding thing, which was such a gift and a blessing to
Mm.
work with them on that because they knew how it all worked and
Yeah.
we just kind of plugged into their ecosystem. And yeah, I managed to raise the finance and the rest is history. Yeah. So from other than that, when we had the initial draft of the script and it took us kind of 5 years to get to the point where we started the fundraise and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, we did the Young David shorts, those 5 minute
Mm.
shorts. And then once we started production, it was about 3 years
Yeah.
to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just remind me when the Young David shorts actually came to being, because I'm less than I know they've been around for a little while. I've not.
Yes. So I want to say 2022 we started those
Right.
and they were released last year was 25. Sorry, those early 2000 years are a blur with like
Yeah.
COVID and then we were finishing another film and then we were starting David. So we must have finished those in 2023.
Yeah.
And then as soon as like the day we we finished those, we started on the feature film 23 to 24. Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
about 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was actually a real gift to have those shorts to be able to do those because it was like warming up our David muscles.
Yeah.
Um, on those, like getting into the characters, really understanding the world and the environment, and we were they're TV shorts, and this is like a epic feature film, for
Yeah.
theaters. So quality is a little bit different, but we got to know the characters. We had David's sister, we had brothers, we had his house, we had the world, we had the sheep. So we
Mm.
we got we got to know all the characters and the world.
And I guess it works really well for the audience as well, because the audience can get to know the characters a little bit and kind of trust the characters in the filmaking process, and are bought in. So
Absolutely.
when the movie comes along, it's a
Yeah.
much more easy step for audiences that are perhaps not sometimes a little bit conservative or concerned about stuff.
Totally. And also because it's quite the story of David is, if you read it straight from the Bible, it's a story. Like there's some stuff that
Yeah,
happens today that's not so family friendly, and so exactly like to be able to
Mm.
say, there was young David, he was a boy, he was fun, adventurous, he was a shepherd, and this
Yeah,
is this is how we can kind of position it and so yes, you're right. People can watch that and be like, oh, this looks great and not so intense or hectic. So it was
yeah.
it was great to be able to do that.
You mentioned the rest of the life of David. I was kind of intrigued as to where you ended the story because that's always something that's kind of quite. There's a lot of different David films. I've written about them quite a bit, but there's a couple of different points they stop. Do you want to talk about how you came to that decision?
Yes. So when we first started in 2015, we did a timeline of David's
Mm.
life. And it was what happens to him is it's over a really long period of time. And so we had to pick. We didn't want the movie to be, too long. And so we had to pick so where we landed was from shepherd boy to king.
Yeah,
And that's what we decided to kind of focus on, is that period of time. And also in that period of time, just the family friendliness of it is
yeah,
and I think that's why those kind of two things. It was too long to fit everything in, and we
mm.
wanted to make it for a family audience. And so yeah,
Yeah.
Shepherd Boy to King was a nice chunk to
Yeah, and
handle.
I found it
Yeah.
really interesting that final set, the kind of final scene with the Amalekites attacking again, because I'm obviously familiar with the story and read those bits lots of times, but I think that bit hasn't been done very often in film, and I've
Yeah.
as a result, I'm less familiar with that in terms of David's story than a lot of the other stuff. So for me
Yeah.
personally, that was a kind of really interesting element of the film.
Yes, and it was a really, really hard part to land for us,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
creatively, because yeah, like again in a family friendly way, how do you show this like epic battle, right?
mm,
And also with the battle being the Lord's, right? And God giving the victory. And so you know how in the Bible it talks about praise being a
yeah,
weapon, and so with the singing and also the music being like it was a weapon, it was a tool, right? So many times in the Bible, when you think about
mm,
Jericho, and just even the way that David was Israel's singer of songs, and that was the gift that God gave him,
yeah,
to calm Saul's spirit. And so we wanted in the end to have praise music to be the thing that kind of ushered in God's presence and therefore the victory
yeah,
at the end. But it took us, I mean, we were down to the wire in production, landing the end of the film.
yeah, yeah,
Like it was deeply stressful, trying to get that point. And but then when that was pitched in the story room, everybody was just like, that's it. That's right. It just felt right for everybody.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's great when that happened.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but I just thought
Sure.
I'd just ask you, because my blog is particularly about Bible films, if
Yes.
there were, kind of, I guess, what your favourite Bible film that you've not been a part of. I should mention Lion of Judah, which you were involved in as well. But
Yes, oh, good research.
in terms of the ones you've not been involved in, was there a particular favourite or one that you may perhaps drawn a lot for this film?
Um, so it's kind of happened simultaneously, but House of David, I've loved. I've
Mm.
loved, loved, loved watching House of
Yeah, it's
David.
really interesting, isn't it?
Also maybe because I was so in the world of David, from our film and it was kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah,
And also The Chosen. My husband and I just absolutely we love The Chosen. And it really, I mean,
yeah,
I've been a Christian my whole life, but The Chosen for me just brought the Bible so, so, so to life for me.
yeah.
And I've watched it and it's changed it's changed me in ways that I never imagined, when I was like, I know the Bible. But like
Mm.
it's brought it to life in such an incredible way for me. So I think in terms of just like impact on my life personally, as a
Yeah.
Christian, it's been The Chosen. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you mentioned go back to House of David. Have there been kind of moments in that as you've kind of watched that you've thought, oh, wouldn't have, I guess either that you like thought, oh, that was brilliant, or I should have thought of that, or moments that you thought, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that.
Do you know what? It's interesting because I was expecting that, but I but
Yeah,
I think what they've done is entirely appropriate for their season and I mean for their show and their audience.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
and I think for us we have a different audience, right? And so
yeah,
And I absolutely think there's place in the market for both, you know?
Yeah,
Like I absolutely love what they've done. And I've got friends who are not Christians who've watched that and have been profoundly impacted by it, you know? And then I've got friends who are also not Christians who've watched our show with their kids and their kids can't stop talking about it or singing it. And so I think I love the fact that there's so much Christian content coming out now and it's hitting the mainstream, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And for us, we didn't just want to make David for a Christian audience. We were like, the broader the audience, the better, right? The more people who can
yeah,
see this, the better. Like we really wanted to make it with like universal appeal and and for people to be inspired by the courage and the faith that David lived with, in the hopes that they're like, well, I want that too, you know?
yeah,
So for
yeah,
us, this has been more than just making a movie. It's like a mission, you know? It's
yeah.
like if we can just get people to experience, the Jesus that we know and the Jesus that David knew and believed in, then that's mission accomplished, actually. Um, yeah.
Okay, well, I think our time together has come to an end, but that's been fantastic.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Matt. It
I
was
really
so nice
enjoyed.
to meet you and talk to
Yeah,
you.
well,
Thank
likewise.